you guys. This is Mrs. Klein.
And Mr. Creighton.
And we're here to introduce you to your very first podcast for 7th grade world history.
Woo!
That's right. You should be excited about this. We're going to have a podcast for every single unit that every single lesson that we cover in our history book. So get used to really paying attention to these podcasts. They're going to help you out tremendously.
The nice thing about these podcasts is if you miss something, you can go back and listen to it again and hopefully become an expert on it.
That is a great point. You can listen to them as many times as you want, you guys.
I know we do. So, the first lesson we're going to be focusing on is the rise and expansion of Rome. As we go through this, we want you guys to open up your textbook and follow along. You guys can do that by following along with pages 47 to 51. As we're going through this, as we mentioned in class today, we are going to have a podcast vocabulary term quiz the next day. So the terms we want you guys to pay attention to are Republic, Augustus, Empire, Emperor, and Christianity. Every time we mention one of these words throughout the podcast, you're going to hear a sound. It sounds like this. So whenever you hear that sound, you know that an important vocabulary term has been said.
So it's not only important to you guys that you kind of just have the definition of the word is, but you really need to have an appreciation for the word in the context of the content from the lesson. So it's not a matching test. We're just not going to tell you to, recite what the definition is, but you really need to have an appreciation for kind of how that word fits with the particular lesson. So like Mr. Creighton let you know, you want to have your history book open. You also want to have those podcast notes out with you as well, because you can fill those out as you listen. You can fill them out after you've listened, but you want to get those podcast notes filled out because basically you're making a study guide for yourself. And when we get to the end of the unit, you'll have all these completed podcast note sheets that you're going to be able to be studying for the unit test. And you're going to be in a better position to do better on the unit test that we're going to take in the middle of September.
The more work you guys put in now preparing for the test, the better off you will be. So just keep that in mind.
Definitely. All right, you guys. So we have also a couple of things that you might not have had last year in 6th grade social studies. Every unit that we cover is going to have a big idea. And and they're also going to have essential questions. The goal is for you to be able to show either me or Mr. Creighton, doesn't matter what class you're in, when we do our performance assessments, we should be able to see that you can answer these questions and that you can show us that you have an appreciation for and an understanding of the big idea in whatever it is that you make for your performance assessments. So the first big idea that we have for this entire unit of Rome, we're going to have one big idea for every unit. The big idea for the unit of Rome is the influence of an empire often lives on even after that empire falls or declines.
So again, that was the big idea question, or big idea. We're going to now focus on the essential questions, and those are specific to this lesson we're going to be talking about. The first essential question is, does power equal influence?
Okay. The second essential question is, how do empires become powerful and influential?
The third essential question, what internal and external factors led to the downfall of empires?
After that, we've got what remains or lives on after an empire falls or declines.
Our last essential question for this unit, for this lesson, what is the primary reason for the fall of Rome?
Now, what's awesome about 7th grade social studies, you guys, is some of the stuff that we're going to be learning about is kind of going to be a review. You remember last year, no matter who your core teacher was, you guys ended with a unit on Rome. So what better way for us is we're going to kind of review some of the things that Rome fell, but at least in 7th grade, we're going to spend a little bit more time talking specifically about the reasons why Rome had a hard time remaining an empire.
Now remember, just because you know a little bit about this doesn't mean that you can tune us out, so please pay attention. All right, so the first section we'll be looking at in the lesson is the origins of Rome. You can find this on pages 47 and 48. The question we want you guys to think about as you're reading and listening to us is, how did Rome begin? From about 700 to 500 BC, 3 different groups lived on the Italian peninsula. They were the Latins, Greeks, and Etruscans. The Latins built the original settlement of Rome. They're considered the first Romans.
Okay, Rome's climate and location helped it grow. The region enjoyed cool, rainy winters that were good for farming. Does that sound kind of familiar?
It does.
Okay, I think we've got rainy, cool winters that are here. Okay, in addition to that, you guys, Rome's location near the Apennines mountain range protected it from harsh weather and foreign invaders. Finally, Rome's location near the Tiber River helped the Romans build a trade network throughout Italy and along the Mediterranean Sea. And I think you guys will remember the story that you learned last year about the creation of Rome, and that Rome was created in the spot where Romulus and Remus were nursed and raised by a she-wolf. So that will be something that you'll remember probably from last year.
During the 8th century BC, Rome became a kingdom. It remained a kingdom until 510 BC, when the Romans rebelled against a harsh ruler named Tarquin. They forced Tarquin to flee the kingdom. After the Romans refused to be ruled by kings, they instead decided to create a government based on the will of the people. So the review question that we asked you to think about is, why did the kingdom of Rome end? We want you guys to think about that and be able to answer that just on your own.
All right, the next section in this lesson is called From Republic to Empire. You're going to find this information on pages 48 and 49 in your history book. And again, we've got this question we want for you to be thinking about. Why did Rome change from a republic to an empire? So after removing Tarquin, the Romans established a republic. This is a form of government in which power rests with citizens, who vote to select their leaders. Rome remained a republic for the next 500 years. In the Roman Republic, all freeborn males could vote. But girls, here's the bad news. Women had few rights in Rome.
The Romans created a powerful, well-organized army. They used their army to conquer all of modern-day Italy and other lands, including Carthage in North Africa. Through conquest, the Romans controlled much of the Mediterranean Sea.
And as the Roman Republic expanded, it became harder for Rome's rulers to keep order. Conflict between different groups within the country led to a civil war. And in 45 BC, Roman general Julius Caesar ended the war, and he brought order to Rome. He then named himself sole ruler. This ended the Roman Republic. A year later, Caesar's enemies killed him right on the floor of the Senate. You probably remember reading about that or learning about that last year.
Rome's leaders competed for power. Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, won the power struggle and became Rome's ruler. He took the title Augustus, or Divine One. Under Augustus, Rome became an empire. An empire is a group of different people or territories led by an all-powerful ruler. The ruler of an empire is known as the emperor. The rule of Augustus began a time of peace, prosperity, and growth for Rome.
And I think you'll remember that was called the period was called the Pax Romana, and I know that was definitely a part of 6th grade social studies for you guys. Well, Augustus died in AD 14, but after his death, the policies he began helped Rome continue to expand and gain power. By the 2nd century AD, the Roman Empire reached its largest size. It probably included 60 million people of many different cultures and religions. Okay, so after you've listened to this, you should be able to answer this question, you guys. What was it that helped Rome become a large empire?
All right, our final section for this lesson is the rise of Christianity. Please take a look at pages 50 through 51 as you follow along. The question we want you guys to think about is, how did Christianity grow so powerful? During the Roman Empire, the religion known as Christianity developed. It became one of the world's major religions. Christianity is based on the teachings of Jesus. Jesus was born in the Roman province of Judea. Jesus was a Jew. Many of his teachings contain ideas from his Jewish faith, especially the belief in one God. This is known as monotheistic. Jesus taught that people should love God and other people, including their enemies. He taught that God created a kingdom in heaven for his followers.
So I bet, Mr. Creighton, because Jesus was monotheistic, believing in one God, that probably is going to have some conflict. Because you guys remember last year when you studied Rome, you learned it was a polytheistic society. They worshiped many gods and goddesses. I predict there's going to be trouble for Jesus.
There probably will be.
So Jesus' teachings attracted many followers. This worried Roman and Jewish leaders. They saw Jesus as a threat to their own power. And eventually, the officials arrested Jesus and put him to death.
After his death, the followers of Jesus spread his teachings throughout the Roman Empire. Early Christians risked their lives for their new faith. Many refused to worship Roman gods because they believed in only one God. As a result, Roman officials jailed and killed many Christians. Despite this, the new religion continued to spread. So the review question we want you guys to be able to answer in your head: why did Roman leaders treat Christians harshly?
Okay, so remember, you guys, you've got a podcast quiz tomorrow. You're going to want to make sure you're really familiar with that vocabulary. You should also take your time to be able to get those podcast note sheets filled out, because it's going to help you when we have our unit test. This has been Mrs. Klein.
And Mr. Creighton.
Thanks for listening, you guys. We are done. And done.
True story.